Okay, folks, happy Saturday morning. We'll roll back into where we left things off last night, which is primering this whole mess of vehicles that we have here. 6 trucks and a couple of JS2s. I'm old school. I have a hard time calling them IS2s. I always call them JS2s. So, and they can use either one. I just don't call them by the other name. And I'm just going to take a brief look and make sure I didn't miss anything. Any pieces that I need to address by adding some additional black to this. That one's all right. This one's okay. And this is 6 Soviet trucks. These are from Plastic Soldier Company. They give you 3 that you can build as the double axle, and 3 is the single axle. I airbrushed most of them, and then I went in and touched with and hand brushed the rest. It looks pretty solid. The stuff goes on really, really well. And then if we're going to have to touch the inside of those. We know we're going to have to do that. And you know, even though it seems kind of slippery, it actually coated really well. There's going to be lots of other coats, so I'm not necessarily worried about having some kind of huge coverage on here that covers every little bit of the gray. It's all, you know, by the time I put all the layers on, that's all going to disappear. So I know we're going to have to touch that up. And hey, Marcus, good morning. And the JS series. I think I'm going to get a little bit in there. It's mainly the recesses because the stuff that's on the surface, but I mean, it still covered pretty well. We're going to have to get the ends of the barrel here that we weren't able to do. So I'm going to pull a little bit of the primer out, nothing major, and touch that up so that this can be drying while we're working on the trucks. And this actually worked out pretty well to just use it out of the top. I got to be careful here. We have a mess and I have to clean up my mess. I got a little bit of splatter here because this stuff is really watery. Let me deal with this now. Oh yeah, that comes right off with some hand sanitizer. I generally don't make much of a mess cleaning it. This is the original desk. And other than a couple little spots that, you know, all you got to do is this is old paint, just bring the hand sanitizer back over and it just makes it go away. It's just tiny little specks of when something flicked, you know, really. So let's get a paintbrush that we don't care about anymore. That one's still wet. Let's see if we can grab another one. You're also working on priming and basing colors phase of a building. What building are we doing? Have you bought any of those Pegasus buildings? like the little Russian hovels or whatever. I don't really know what's going on with Pegasus stuff, but it seems like a lot of their stuff is just hard to come by. Well, they had a limited production run. The KV, the set that has the KV1 and the KV2 is probably the most extreme example of something that's almost impossible to get a hold of. But those buildings disappeared too. And I want to say they make at least three of them, at least three series of the buildings, maybe even four. And that's just the Russian ones. But for all the trouble that this gives me in airbrush, hand painting this primer is really, it's very good. The properties that it has that make it go every which way, almost like thinned enamel, make it really easy to work with. You want to make sure all those recesses definitely are covered. You want a glaring light color in a darkened area. Is not a look that I'm looking for. This is not the look you're looking for. Patrick Miniatures, Univermag. Oh, you got a chance to order something from Patrick. Yeah, I got a lot of stuff that I watch him, and I just haven't ordered anything. I've got to finish the buildings that I have before I allow myself to buy more. The department store, huh? Very high quality. Okay. Yeah, there's all kinds of. There's a manufacturer, I don't know who it is, I don't know if it's Patrick or whatever. They have an entire Italian village. And it even comes with a base and everything. It's just some absurd amount of money. It's a couple $100 or something. But yeah, I don't dare buy something like that unless I can prove to myself that I can finish the stuff that I have. But that Italian village is beautiful. It's like 7 or 8 buildings, including a little church. I want to say it's like 2 foot by 3 feet or whatever, but it's all, that thing's beautiful. But it's on my list of things to get if I ever accomplish what I think I'm going to accomplish. But buying it now isn't going to make things better. That'll just give me a sense of getting overwhelmed and I won't do anything. We all operate differently, and the way I operate is if I have too many things to work on, I just give up. It's just overwhelming. And it's bad enough that I built so many of these vehicles when we were getting ready to close on the house, and I've got probably I haven't done a count on it, but I probably should do that one of these days. That way we can check things off as we accomplish them. But I would say it's probably 50 to 75 vehicles that are already built, I already have them, they're just ready to get painted. It's not like I don't have places to put them. This display thing is going to be, I think I'm just going to leave all my World War II stuff in here. Not a whole lot of touch-ups, just a little bit here, a little bit there. The Battle Honors product looks best in class. Also want some. Yeah, I just wish everything wasn't made in frickin'. It's funny because I think Patrick Miniatures, I could be wrong. Patrick Miniatures is in Germany. And I think Patrick Miniatures has cheap freight or reasonable freight. Whereas some of the other ones, the freight's a little bit more. I gotta justify wanting it a lot more than that. Department store. So you're going full Stalingrad, huh? How do you have a department store in a place that in a communist country where that's cash unfriendly? Well, everything's free, right? You just go to the department store and you just tell them what. You don't even tell them what you want. You just take what you want. Is that how it works? I never understood that. I'm gonna go shopping in a place where you're not allowed to have money. What? You watched? Have you watched that series from Tick on the whole play-by-play in Stalingrad? It's really detailed. I've only made it through about a small portion of it, just because there's just so many damn episodes to watch. But it's pretty interesting if Stalingrad is your jam. One thing I will say about Stalingrad is the German vehicles at least were gray, and I'm a fan of that. Although in Case Blau, there were quite a few units that started already experimenting with alternative colors for their panzers, other than gray. You run into stuff like Czech 38s for the 22nd Panzer Division, and they're in a sandy color. And no, it's not Dunkelgelb. That's another experimental thing. And it just looks weird. A Czech 38 in a yellowish color is just doesn't sit right. True. I watched the whole series. My favorite was North Africa Operation Crusader. That's amazing. And can you imagine having like a something like a 6 by 8 table that is just the airfield at Sidi Rezai with wrecked vehicles? And I mean, you could do a really skirmish thing on there, but you'd have 20 vehicles on there and 12 of them be broke down. You got 25 pounders with jock columns holding things. I mean, it's really well suited to. I learned a lot of new stuff listening to that one, and I always liked that campaign. Before it's in the middle of the theater, so it could go each way, and the battle swung back and forth, and yeah, it was really interesting. I like his style because he uses maps a lot, and I understand a lot. I am really good with maps, and my understanding of maps of using maps to understand warfare is pretty important to me. As a matter of fact, that's one of the reasons why I have a lot of trouble reading some of the books that I get, because I'm always looking back and forth on a map where everything is, so I can kind of wrap my head around it and put it relative to each other. If you're just like reading off stuff, you know, you can't really process where everything is related to everything else. But the stuff that he does, because it uses the counters and because it uses the maps and stuff like that, he does a really good job with it. My only gripe with him, and it is a very minor quibble, is that he has a manner of speaking it's monotone and yet it's not, but he ends his sentence the same way, over and over again. But he's doing something. I mean, I guess he gets paid, but he's still doing it for free. He's doing the work up front and hopefully getting paid for it. But I really enjoy the stuff that he does. I'm not into his political stuff as much, although I agree with a lot of what he says. And I think he has a good way of going about it, like balancing both things, and like is that really the case? You know, so I think he does some really interesting programming. He just focuses a little bit too much. I mean, I know that with as many viewers as he has, he's getting a lot of like negativity. I think he focuses. This is his own. You can do whatever you want with it, but he focuses a little bit too much on the naysayers. I would just like ban them. Like there's some people out there that are just like, you know, aren't interested in learning more about things. They just want to push their own position, whatever the hell it is, and therefore they're just trolls. So I think that he has the right attitude as far as trying to get to the trying to cut through the crap and find out what really happened or what have you. So I feel like his heart's in the right place. I could be wrong, but it sure seems that way. So I appreciate that. But yeah, his thing of maps, that's that's how I learn effectively. Would be awesome. Yeah, absolutely. That whole series where the New Zealanders, the New Zealanders, the Germans went in and they took out, they captured. I'm going to say Fourth Armored Brigade. I could be wrong. They captured the headquarters unit of a British unit, and then like the next day, the New Zealanders captured the headquarters of the Afrika Korps. Didn't capture any super high-ranking folks that you would have heard of, but they overran it. It was interesting how it just went back and forth and back and forth. I mean, that's pretty cool. And just trying to wrap my head around like, okay, what unit had which tanks? Okay, all right, the Valentines are in that tank brigade that supported the New Zealanders. Okay, and then there's Matildas that are in the tank brigades that are around Tobruk. Got it. And then these guys have Crusaders, and these guys have, Honeys. All trying to process all that stuff in, my tank modeling mind, plus the maps. That was a really cool thing. It's a lot more interesting than Stalingrad because being a treadhead, the units that are in the Stalingrad, I should say, the armored units that are in Stalingrad, I'm not really excited about. I don't get excited about the 14th Panzer Division or the 24th or, I just don't get excited about those things. That's just my old 135th scale modeling days coming back to haunt me. I was never a fan of modeling the 21st Panzer Division. I prefer the 15th much better. Better symbol. It's a triangle with that slash through the middle. The 21st is just a D. You got a D in class. Thanks. That's a shitty symbol. Just saying. The Flow of Crusader reminds me of Battle C. Fog of War was something else. Absolutely. Yeah, and a lot of people just don't know about it. I mean, World War II nuts know about it, but I mean, just the general population, they don't know about that. Yeah, definitely Fog of War. Jock columns. So the 25 pounders from Plastic Soldier Company. I believe they come with two sets of crews. One of them like bare shirted for the for North Africa. But I don't dare get into North Africa right now. I just get spread too thin. But I'm always looking for Matilda 2s because they're really hard to come by in 1/72nd. You either have old models that are priced incorrectly. They want too much money for them, for those old SG models, or the Badger print. I've never bought one of those yet. The shipping is just. I gotta really need it, and I don't need. Fortunately, I don't need anything. Okay, I think this will do for now. I'm gonna put those little boogers over there. Yeah, there's some stuff. There's some people that do some really good programming. That Crusader one's particularly good. I think I got to the end of it. If not, I got almost to the end of it. Um, I like a lot of Dan Carlin stuff too. But the problem is Dan Carlin is, even though he's a war gamer, he's definitely not. It doesn't have the kind of details that something like the Tick stuff would have. Got to run an errand. Okay. At this time in the morning? Yeah, you got to go out and do things before your whole city wakes up. Life in the big city. We're going to try to do this as much as we can the next couple of mornings. Between Christmas and New Year's, I'm not supposed to be on here. I'm supposed to be traveling. I'm not going to tell you where that is because, you know, it's not that I'm trying to be elusive. It's just that it's annoying when you make plans and the plans don't work out, even though you want them to, and then you feel like you got to explain where you were. Like, look, if I make plans, my plan is for them to go according to plan. So I don't want to relive defeat, but we're supposed to go somewhere cold. Let's put it that way. We went to New York last year, and we're supposed to go somewhere cold. I don't want to be somewhere warm when it's wintertime. I'm already somewhere warm all the time. So we'll see how that plays out. But supposedly I have 3 work days left. And Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and then I don't work for the rest of the year and some of the next year. So that's when I usually take my big vacation, is at the end of the year. And it makes sense because you get a new set of days. I can't carry anything over. You get a new set of days in January. So it makes sense to wait till last minute to use them all. Yeah, see, even though this looks like it didn't cover this really well, the hand painting I did, that's good enough to do what I'm going to do. It's enough for the paint to grab onto this. And you can go back and fill or whatever, but if I don't, it's not a big deal. It'll end up having, I don't know, 3, 4 coats of paint on top of that, so do need to get a roll of paper towels in here, which I do not have. Mr. Benwadi, welcome. Your work erroneously told me I had All right. That damn heart in the corner. Do all you guys have that? That heart in the chat? My work erroneously told me I had 54 days to take between now and New Year's. Huh. Let's just create another freaking calendar while we're at it. How about they just tell you you can take them all off between now and New Year's? Is that a fair trade? I wouldn't work for somebody who makes that kind of a simple error. They're probably docking your pay somewhere. They're probably paying you incorrectly. I don't know how the working conditions are in the UK, but I have a feeling that, remember that old saying in World War II? The saying was kind of like, and I'm ad-libbing this, where they're talking about the U.S. soldiers that came over to Britain, and they said that the U.S. soldiers are oversexed, overpaid, and over here, and the Brits were underpaid, overworked, whatever. I have a feeling that the working conditions in the UK are better than here. We hardly have any vacation days available, and it's just so hard to take vacation. I don't even necessarily care that I have a limited amount of time off. It's almost punishing to take time off. And it's not somebody else. It's self-punishing. Like, I hate going on vacation because the messes that get created, even though I leave everything done, is just astounding. You know, I've taken a whole week off, gone on a cruise. The cruise ship gets back on a Saturday. I go in on Sunday to just reconcile everything that's happened. And I'm really a department of one, kind of. I mean, I've got people that report to me, but, they're just drivers. They don't necessarily, do any paperwork that I've got to check or anything like that. So for the most part, but just reconcile everything that happened. Okay, this got canceled, and this moved here, and this didn't go on this, and we have to go back for this, and this guy wants something new. I went in one time, and I closed the door. Well, there was nobody in the office. I didn't have to close the door. I showed up in my shorts and comfortable wear, and worked about 6 hours. I actually enjoyed it. I would actually, if I could work in comfortable clothing, shit, I'd volunteer to take a pay cut, man. That's why there's people that say they work from home. I don't give them any sympathy. Like, you can work in whatever the hell. I mean, I don't want to work naked, but I want to be comfortable. I guess it could be worse. You could be, in a hospital environment, but there's no way I'd work in that environment. But it's so difficult to take time off. I mean, in April I'll be 30 years where I've worked, and I've been maxed out on days for over a decade. And it's enough days. It's not very many from other countries, but it's a right to work state. It's a right to work situation. So you don't like it, you can go somewhere else, and I agree with that. But it's so difficult to take the few days that you have. So I'm a big fan of the days where the plant is closed. Not necessarily because you have to take this day off. It's like that old cartoon where it was the sheepdog and the coyote and an alarm. The end of the day whistle went off at 5 o'clock and everything stopped. He was getting ready to strangle the coyote, and the coyote got dropped, and they went about their separate ways. It's literally that way. You close the thing and nothing new happens. You know, I don't leave things done that gets done incorrectly or improperly. So I like those. Thanksgiving's one of those. The week between Christmas and New Year's generally has been the case where the plant is closed. Nothing new can happen. So really, even though I'm taking a big chunk, it's only Thursday, Friday, and then the first couple days in January that I need to plan for, where things are in operation, but I'm not there. And of course, the hardest thing is for me is not necessarily the work you got to do, but you got to hold people down to make a decision on what they really want on a certain day, and hopefully they don't change their mind after they do all the work. Because it's just, if it was just like, okay, well, this is going to take 6 hours or whatever, you could just have some caffeine and just kick the shit out of it and be done with it. But it's that balance that you have to wait until the last minute so you don't have to do things twice. And because that's even more work and it's confusing. And it's the balance between that, and, not waiting till the last minute, but then kind of waiting till the last minute so that you don't have to do things multiple times. But, I got quite a few years of practice doing it. It's just, it doesn't get any easier. My job shouldn't be as challenging as it is as long as I've been doing it. But, no, it is what it is. I don't see myself being one of those people that's like, oh, I got to have a job to stay busy. No. No, I need a job because, I got overhead that I need to cover. But I would happily retire now. But that's, welcome to Fantasy Island. I did see a little bit here that needs to be touched up. These really are ugly trucks. But there's nothing pretty about communism anyways, so just be glad you aren't the janitor for the congressional hearing room. Or work anywhere in D.C. I don't know, is there stuff going on there? You probably know more about congressional hearings than I do. I tune everything out. I'm tired of being manipulated. So I really don't pay attention to the news. Is the Ukraine thing still happening? I really don't pay attention to the news. Or the weather. The weather people, man, they get excited that there's some diabolical storm that's going to destroy everybody. They get like all the whole 24-hour news cycle just makes me sick. So I don't really pay attention to the news. Is there hearings going on or something? There's hearings going on all the time. Most politicians are attorneys, and attorneys aren't happy unless there's courtroom drama shit involved. Like the rest of us let's get shit done, man. Let's make widgets, ship them out. In my case, that would be what it is. Let's distribute widgets. Go for it, painting. Welcome. Go for it. You always catch the tail end of my stuff. Where are you based at? This is not the tail end. I just got started, so your timing is perfect. Congressman Stafford got caught posting a video of himself slapping leather with a rent boy right in the hearing room. I'm not even going to comment on that. Oh, you'll find this interesting. Oh, I will find this interesting. So, I'm a big fan of Facebook. I am. I don't get into political conversations. I don't get into arguments. I use it as a kumbaya moment to for us to bond over the things that we have in common, not our differences. I know a lot of people don't do that. They want to be, keyboard commandos, but it's not worth my time arguing about shit. Even so much that I've actually banned people. I've blocked people that are friends with a friend of mine who had who I don't want to hear anything from them again, or I may have to send out a kill team for them. No, I don't have that kind of power, but there's a couple folks that I've never met, and I wish really bad things on them, unfortunately, because of what they said. And I wasn't even involved in the conversation. But I basically just mind my own business. And I pretty much accept anybody's friend request as long as they have a similar interest, regardless of their political position. And my history of playing war games is pretty much everybody I play war games with. We are not PC. PC didn't freaking exist that way. That was just the way everybody was. You just made fun of everything, and and it wasn't a big deal, and we weren't thin-skinned. So lately, in the last 20 years, there's a lot of really thin-skinned people out there, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Let you bother about me. You can call me names, no big deal. I'm going way off tangent, but I'm terrible at telling stories. In case you guys don't already know, which you probably do. I can't be good at everything. Jesus. Know your limitations and then be proud of them. It's what makes you unique. So there's this person that I friended. I don't know if it's a person or it's a group or whatever. Several years ago, I have really thick skin, and I don't have a problem putting Soviet slogans on things. I'm not a communist. I don't have a problem building aircraft and putting the crooked spider on it. I'm not one of those folks. I'm not a white supremacist. I am a human supremacist, though. Humans first. You don't have to ruin the world, but humans first. Regardless of color, ethnicity. And this guy put this post the other day, celebrating, and I unfriended him because it just kind of didn't sit well with me. And maybe I took it the wrong way, but I've seen him post things before, and I just kind of turned the other way. And he was kind of like celebrating German veterans of the SS, and it just didn't sit well with me. And I don't have anybody in my family that I know of was one of the races or groups of people that the Germans oppressed, nor related to any of the oppressors either. But there's a big difference between regular Wehrmacht guys and guys that were in the SS. Because, now, was there guys that were in the Wehrmacht that were bad folks? No doubt about it. There's absolutely no doubt about it. But I find it really hard to believe that somebody would be in the SS and be, misinformed or didn't know what they were doing, or it's just very, very, very different. Forget the war crime stuff. Forget the stuff where, where soldiers go and shoot people. And I'm going out on a limb here, but this is what I really feel. I'm not afraid of saying what I really feel. Can you still do that anymore? Are you still allowed to do that? Well, I've always done it. There's a big difference between war crimes because look, if any of us were in a situation and all your buddies are killed and all of a sudden you're fighting whatever enemy it is and they're like, after they run out of ammo, oh, I surrender, and you've lost half of your platoon or whatever, you're gonna. I wouldn't be surprised that that didn't happen more often. Like, sorry, dude, you guys are all gonna die now. That's very different than hunting civilians down just because you believe some kind of messed up propaganda and sending to a gas chamber. It just very, 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 very different. Anyhow, this guy was basically saying, was regarding this person as a hero. And hey, I'm a fan of killing communists. Don't get me wrong, but the other side is really bad too. So I had to unfriend that. And I have really thick skin. I have old school skin where it's just like, veterans are veterans, but that was a situation of apples and bananas, so I didn't, it didn't sit well with me being friends with somebody that posted things like that. And it wasn't over the top. It was just like a picture of a person within. You could tell that they had the SS gear on them. And I'm like, no, not cool. Not cool. Anyhow, I've actually never painted SS guys, and I do have some SS guys to paint, and I don't have a problem painting them. I do it as a challenge to paint their camouflage, but I'm under no illusions that those guys are good folks. Sorry, I got to lump everybody together on that one. It's just there's way too much evidence on those folks. It's like painting NKVD guys, and I have NKVD guys or commissars, and saying, "Oh, these guys really were fun at parties." Michael, welcome. Happy holidays to you too, whichever one you decide to celebrate. I don't care. You know. Just don't force other people to celebrate the one you celebrate. All holidays by default are peaceful, right? Not going to be like, the holiday season will, and not be peaceful. We all have more in common with people based on how we were raised more than religion or color of skin or anything else. So, there's a big difference between, in my opinion, there's a big difference between putting a post that has somebody like Adolf Galland, and I'm not going to tell you who that is. If you don't know who it is, then come on, read some World War II, folks, and his accomplishments or something like that. I mean, you don't have to like worship anybody, but I'm just saying, making a post about Adolf Galland or making a post about an equal type of post about somebody like a Scorzeni or something like that, or there's just a big difference in my book. So. All right. I need. Was it a pic of that Larry Thorne, the guy that fought with the Finns, Germans, and then later in the U.S.? No, but I've heard about that guy. Was there a? It's no. SS are bad, folks. I mean, did they have cool camouflage smocks? Absolutely, but they're bad folks. Just because they're dressed well doesn't mean anything. Just like I've got really thick skin, and I would never go to a game convention and wear a shirt that depicted a symbol of a German Panzer Division, regardless of which one it is. It just sends the wrong message. Like I'm overlooking all the evil stuff that they did. Um, so even though they didn't do it directly, Maybe the people that were in there, didn't, but I don't do shit like that. By the way, to be honest, I kind of stopped following your channel after you stopped DBA. Also, be a World War II game or just painting and modeling. There will be gaming eventually, but no timetable, and that's okay. You probably started watching me because of DBA. I can't do everything, and I can't make DBA better, and it was really bringing me down, honestly. All the effort I was putting into it, and I can't just just do less effort. No, that's I can't pull a Picasso. A Picasso is like, oh, well, you really can paint things really well, but you choose to paint like a child that's on drugs. I can't do that. I gotta give it my all, or I'm not interested in doing it at all. That's just me. Fuck Picasso. I should change my name on my channel to that. And there's other people like that do that kind of stuff. Who's that? That Kandinsky guy? He's like Picasso. At least had some shape. Kandinsky, whatever, is like straight lines. Okay, this one's red, and then we have a blue one and a yellow one. And the big one, the big red, signifies that the socialist experience is growing, and it's gonna. Okay, put the pipe down and stop smoking that stuff. Okay, he's just playing you for a fool. I'm gonna go get some liquids, and I will be right back in a moment. I'm not even gonna turn the video off. Right back. I guess I shouldn't say things while I'm not on the microphone. I said, yeah, you sure you do just like your Battle of Forces, wondering if the future, we could see some World War II game in the future. But whenever I get around to it is a big hill to climb. And like I've said before, this is my therapy. Playing games isn't therapeutic to me. It isn't. Sometimes it's frustrating. Not necessarily against human opponents. Generally, human opponents, if you're playing against folks that you don't mind losing to, it's still a good social experience. But I haven't played with the guys in probably 6, 7 months or whatever. It's just too difficult to try to meet up on the days that they want to meet up. And I don't honestly know what they're doing. They may be playing DBA, they may not. But I just know I've enjoyed the last 2 conventions I went to locally. I didn't run any of the DBA stuff. Other people did. And they didn't have any more players. They didn't have any less players. It was like, we got these 8 players or whatever. And I just can't get it to grow. And problems keep coming up that I can't make better or clarify the rules so that they don't come up again. And it's just very frustrating. So, and I'm putting a lot of detail in my painting. And the game just doesn't have that kind of detail for it to be worthwhile, you know. As for the previous thing, kind of hard to believe that a guy is just into history if he arrives in clothes that are not uniform reconstructions that again, that heart, I can't see it. That very last comment. I'll be able to read your comment once somebody else posts behind it. If he arrives in clothes that are not uniform reconstructions, very illegal. So yeah, like there's no problem. Like if I went to a reenactor and somebody's dressed up as SS and they're doing SS and Canadians or something like that, and it's just a reenactor, that's okay. But to show up to play, it's not. It doesn't offend me because, like I said, none of those people. It's just in poor taste, and it sends the wrong message. I've seen someone play Flames of War, and they were wearing either First SS or Hitlerjugend. Those two are similar markings on their shirt, and I'm like, it's got a crooked spider on it to begin with. It just sends the wrong message, you know? What if you leave that venue and you're going to Burger King or whatever to get a meal? You're going to wear that shirt? It just, maybe that's, I don't know. It just, and I'm telling you what, I've played a lot of games and I haven't encountered people that are supremacists of any kind. But I've also not played any games with people that have dressed like that. And not because of that. It's just the people I play with, they wouldn't do things like that. That's just a little extreme. I used to play with one guy infrequently that enjoyed playing the Germans a little too much, but that's about it. I don't think he wanted them to take over the world, but we'd all be a lot worse off if that happened. Okay, let's get out some Russian green. And I got a couple of them here. Oh, bam, right off the bat, found one, okay? This is the old one. They changed the formula on it. Is this the next one? Damn it. I was gonna go play the lottery if I found it. No, I wasn't, because I would have used up all my luck on this. Refractive green. I could really use any color. I just decided this is US Olive Drab. I might as well use the correct colors. Start from there. They're going to vary a little bit with the weather and the stuff that I do. Let's see. That's the German dark green. Well, how much of this we got left? I was going to do 3 in one and 3 in the other, or at least start it. They're not that different from each other. It's technically supposed to be the same color, just remanufactured. I believe this is the one. I saved a little piece of paper that I had here somewhere while I did the comparison. Here it is. Yeah, this is the first and the second one. Let's see if we get it on the screen here. Where is this camera? There we go. So this is the original Russian green, and this is the reformulated one. It's now called camouflage orange green. That's these two. They look significantly different in the colors you're seeing aren't exactly what I'm seeing, but it's representative in that they look that much different. This one's more of a full green here, and then this one has almost like a little bit more brown in it. But when you're done painting them on a white surface, they're damn near the same. So we're going to do 3 in one and 3 in the other, just for variety. Your local club is full of lovely chaps. Well, we'll find out if that's sarcasm or not when I read the rest of the sentence. No weirdos at all. In fact, one of my regular opponents is Justin, the guy that runs Veni Vidi Vici. Cool. Mr. Justin, welcome back. All right, so we're going to use these two colors. All right, we're going to do one single axle truck, a double axle truck, and a double in one. And the other one will be single, single, double. And they're not that different. I don't even know why I'm doing this, just for Why not? Let's start with the old one. Very Vici. Yeah, I think the guy that they posted that they were kind of celebrating was just a random dude. But maybe he was a okay guy, got caught and everything, but I'm not putting my money on that. Kind of feel like painting vehicles with a brush is dying art these days because of the airbrush. Well, I got the airbrush only because spray paint, and I was using spray paint for primering and still having to touch it up with black, and for sealing. The quality control on the air the spray cans is just horrible. The paint's bad. It smells atrocious. You know, there's a difference between, the smell of spray paint, model glue, or something like that, that has the same kind of smell it's always had growing up, right? And it's nothing I want to smell, but it's not like horrible. There's a difference between, the smell of alcohol and the smell of dog shit. It's kind of like that. And the new formulations smell absolutely terrible. And the nozzles would clog up. And it didn't matter whether you turned it upside down, so you'd buy a bottle that was, this big to try to get value out of it, and you'd only get through a third of it before you couldn't use it before because of the nozzle. You switch out the nozzle, and that one didn't work either. It was just bad QC on those products. So, it's one of those things, and I've said this before. If you're going to buy something expensive, and an airbrush is definitely expensive as far as this hobby goes, and this is still, I still stand by, this is a cheap hobby. If you buy everything in sight and you have no self control, well, that doesn't apply to you. But I think this is a cheap hobby. If you're going to buy something expensive, make sure you're going to use it. And then if you use it, buy it as early as you can. So that way you keep using it. You don't want to be like 80 years old and buying an airbrush. You're not going to get your money's worth out of it. That's just my personal advice. But I do overthink about whether I'm going to get something or not. Because I don't want to spend $400 on something and it just sits in the corner. It just makes me feel bad. So, I feel like hand painting, you can put your own spin on it. So, if you haven't seen me do the vehicles, the way I've kind of started doing them, and I'm happy with it, is just I spray them black, which is kind of my signature thing for many years now for everything. And then I just dry brush in this color. And then I'm going to add a wash to add some modulation. And then I'm going to go back with the same color again and then add some lightning colors to bring some of the stuff out that I want to. And pick out some details that I want to stand out more than others, and then weather it. And I've been really happy with how it's turned out, and I've been able to do pretty consistent results, which is I think important if you're doing stuff like vehicles and things like that. So I don't mind some of this the black coating staying. It adds extra shadows, and a lot of these guys that are what I would call pro painters, and I can't think of any of their names right now. These guys that make vehicles look better than a real one. You have a picture of a real vehicle like that's been refurbished, and then their tank in 1/35th scale, their tank looks better. Night Shift. Night Shift is one. There's a whole host of them. I just can't think of what their names are right now. They I'm not a fan of using something like a dusting powder for the look I'm trying to achieve. That doesn't mean it doesn't look good. It's just not the look I want for a War Games model on a War Games table. If you use something like a dusting powder that's going to get into crevices and it's a light color, you're working against the whole contrast thing that you're trying to see 3 feet away. Now, don't get me wrong, I'll take pictures of my things up close and they look good, but and I'm happy with how they look. I just don't want something that blends too much into the War Games table that it ends up looking 4 feet away like I just went and didn't do anything to it. And is that realistic? Yeah, because vehicles kind of did that, but that's just not my thing. The same way so it's just think of it as kind of like black lining, but not. And a lot of this black lining will end up go away because we're going to put some other coats on it and things like that. We're going to paint the windshields, but it just depends on what style you want to go for. Some people want to do realistic stuff, and I kind of think of it as a kind of a graphic novel. And I really wish that they just used wooden color on the back of this, but they didn't. They sprayed this whole thing. We take to factory and we just dip the whole bitch in, So you kind of have to go with that. So you might put a little bit of wood where this color is chipped off or something like that. But the whole point is to make these trucks. They're all going to have their personality. Going to look slightly different from each other. I don't buy the whole, the Russians just paint them green. No, look, if you make one nation's stuff boring, nobody's going to want to play them. And I like playing the Soviets. The Soviets have some cool equipment, Do I like AK-47 paints and wash? I do. You mean AK MiG ammo MiG AK, whatever the hell it is. I don't understand the designation between the difference. I think they're different subsets of the same company. I mentioned this last night. I think the guy who started the MiG used to work for Vallejo. Those two are my two favorite paints. For airbrushing, the AK stuff is, I think, the best that I've encountered for acrylics because I can use it right out of this. I don't have to thin it or anything. I just use it right out of there. It doesn't work as well for dry brushing because it's not as thick. I have dry brushed with it. It's just you just have to be conscious that it's pretty wet. So, you got to plan accordingly. My only gripe with them is that when you seal the top and you shake it, because their paint is more watery, it's significantly more watery than Vallejo. It's probably like thinned 50% compared to Vallejo. It seems that way. There's a little bit of an airspace between the top of the container. If you do the cross-sectional, and when you shake it, some of that paint gets out, and when you go to open it, you've got the entire thread is just covered in wet and wasted paint. That's my only gripe with them. I prefer them to airbrush with. They behave. You just have to thin the Vallejo ones a little bit, but I use them both. That's what I have. They have the eyedropper. You could just put like one drop in your airbrush. Just use that up. They clean up well. I'm gonna dry brush over the. I was gonna say the windshield, but there's another name for windshield that I don't use. I thought I was gonna be fancy, and I guess I shouldn't try being fancy. I can't remember what it is. Windscreen. There we go. The windscreen. And So there's several people that carry Vallejo paints here in town, and the distributor, a big distributor for the AK paints, is in Tampa. So it's kind of a win for both. Um, I like them both. If I was going to airbrush these, and I've done this before, I would use the AK Russian stuff. But I'll be honest with you, it is a lot more satisfying to me to hand paint things than to airbrush things because there's no cleanup on hand painting. When you airbrush, the painting part might be quicker in some regards, but you have to stop what you're doing and take things apart, and it's a step that you have to do, and I'm not used to. That doesn't mean I hate airbrushing. It just means that there's pros and cons to everything. But I can prime hand painting. I can paint hand painting. The ceiling, I need the airbrush for that. Unless it's figures. Figures I'll hand paint the figures on the varnish. But for vehicles, yeah, I got to use airbrush for that or a can. I don't want to use the cans anymore. They're really expensive and they're super toxic. I used Testra's Model Master for the longest time, and they just discontinued that. Rust-Oleum bought that company, and they discontinued all of the paints that I was using. They kept the super cheap ones, and I'm not happy. Not that I'm not happy about it. Sounds like I'm gonna have a protest or something, but it's just they lost me as a customer. Ooh, they're gonna go out of business because I'm not buying stuff from them. I don't buy that much from them, anyways. But I'm just saying that's why I don't use them anymore. I was a loyal Tester's Model Master spray user for many, many years. And again, this is mainly just to get a surface of a color to get the wash to stick on. Okay, that one's done. They're gonna end up looking pretty cool, even though they're ugly trucks. Opel Blitzes aren't really sexy either. If you're talking about World War II trucks and you're talking about looks, not utility and how well they work, looks. I think the Studebaker 2.5 tons are one of the better looking ones. Some of the Canadian ones aren't bad. The CMPs. I like the quad tractors. I like the quad tractors. Oh boy. The quad tractors, especially North African livery, even though I like the Western Europe Mickey Mouse paint scheme. I'll say it again. The Brits just had, and when I mean Brits, I mean Commonwealth. You just have to deal with it. Um, had a way of taking American gear and making it look better with the paint schemes that they had. But the Studebakers are good. I think they're good looking vehicles. This one have a wheel underneath? No, it does not have a wheel underneath. Okay. What else? These Russian things are ugly as shit. The German trucks are a mixed bag. I don't think the Opel Blitzes are atrociously ugly, but I don't think they're attractive vehicles. I think one of the Mercedes cab things are better. But the Steyr vehicles are ugly as shit. Never thought about trucks though. Ugliest World War II vehicle that I can think of right off the bat. There might be exceptions to this. It's definitely a truck. It's that damn duck thing that the U.S. made. That thing is just the ugliest thing. It makes the RSO look like a supermodel. Do you have any Jagdpanzer Elephant tank destroyers? Um, yes. I have one that's pre-painted. I got it from Dragon way back when they started doing shit. It's probably close to 30 years old. Wait, how old am I? Yeah, it's probably 30 years old, and or close to that. And I have a model of it also by Eschi. Yeah, the pre-built one's actually Ferdinand for Kursk, and the Eschi model is an actually Elephant. So it has a Hull machine gun on it, and I'm not repainting the Dragon one. It's just I don't know why I got it. I got it many years ago, thinking, oh, this would be cool to have. Okay, well, it doesn't match your other vehicles, and it's well painted. Don't get me wrong, but the only reason I have one of those though is because they were selling it at a lot of these things I bought because I had a credit at Noble Knight. Sold my unloved things. I'm like, oh, they have 1/72 scale stuff. Cool. Let me replace it with that. And even if I don't ever play this game, I'm at least doing something with this stuff, as opposed to the other stuff that I traded them I wasn't doing anything with, and never was going to. You just get to a point where you realize I'm never going to use this, so let's have it move to somebody else. There's one thing I don't like about Panthers, tigers, elephants, in particular, king tigers. Since I'm interested in history, I just don't get excited about those independent tank battalions, independent tank units. Once a unit is like part of, one of those independent units, I just kind of not interested in the history of it. I don't know. It just maybe that's just me. Maybe other people feel the same way, but I'd rather, read about a certain division or something like that than this independent tank battalion that gets passed around, like somebody else. Not that it really matters because I'm not putting unit symbols on my tanks as much as I'd like to. I don't want to be like, oh crap, this. I have this Panther. It's got Grossdeutschland stuff, and I'm fighting the Brits in Normandy. The Grossdeutschland stayed in the east the entire war, so I don't want to have trouble sleeping at night, so I don't do that. But I'm not a fan of those independent tank units, independent tank brigades or whatever. I don't know. I mean, I know why I did them. It just from a modeling standpoint, I just lose interest. Now, what I have been playing is I have been playing some World of Tanks when I've got an hour or so to kill. I don't really want to paint. Not with you guys. I'm bored if I'm doing this by myself. So it's really unlikely I'm doing any painting without you guys finding out what I'm doing. Because I just find it boring just to sit here. And likewise, I'm not spending all day playing video games. It's just something like, okay, I got an hour to kill. Like before work, like I'll do some of that. So What I really have been enjoying doing is some of the vehicles I don't know anything about, and that's basically experimental vehicles. Things weren't ever made, and like it might be kind of fun to build a couple of those experimental vehicles. Not necessarily some super tank, but things I'm not really familiar with, like tanks that were never made, that kind of thing. Got some American stuff I didn't know anything about. So it's fun, like pulling that up and then going on Wikipedia, or whatever, and learning about the design process of some of these vehicles. So it's kind of cool. Seeing if they make a model of it, and then go back to paint, go back to pushing buttons. But it does give you food, does give me food for thought. Where's Kevin at? Kevin's the Wool of Tanks guy. But I don't spend real money on it. Any game that you can play for free or for money, I'm like, okay, let me just play it for free. I'm going to get tired of it before I spend real money on it. If I spend real money, I'm like, well, I got to play it more, get my money's worth out of it. Well, that keeps me from doing this. So, Justin, you're up in Michigan. You tired of the cold yet, or it's home? And it gets dark real early there. And this time change this time has just been really brutal. There's been nights where most nights I'm asleep. I'm asleep by 9:30. I just can't take it anymore. It's just, well, there's nothing worth staying up for. The other night this week that I stayed up the latest is because you guys. I was out here filming. I was like, I had a couple of Cokes, which don't have that much caffeine in them, but a couple Coke Zeros, I should say. And I could have kept going, but it's like, man, I got to go to work. Okay, second truck done. See if I can get a. It looks sloppy-ish a little bit. The important thing isn't that it's sloppy; it's that the paint isn't on too thick, so that when you put other layers down, you're not trying to cover. We still left. You love the Four Seasons. Yeah, you definitely get the Four Seasons. Well, in a few days, I'll be going somewhere as cold as Michigan. Hopefully. Hopefully it's cold. Don't want to live there, but I love visiting the snow. I love it. It's like going to another planet. It's the it is the polar opposite of here. Like I'm not one of those people. It's like, hey, what are you going on vacation? I'm going to the freaking Brazil rainforest. No, absolutely not. I already live here. You know, nope. I want to go somewhere totally different. And it is. It's like going to another planet for us. And you could be out all day and you don't smell like a shrimp salad, because there's no humidity. That's the only part about the cold I can't take is the dryness. I don't do well with the dryness. Where I live, there's no light pollution. I love studying the night sky. That's cool. You see the meteor shower the other day? I didn't. I was asleep. Yeah, you live You live in here, don't you? Oh, hold on. You live here in Michigan, don't you? I think. How the states got their shape. Yeah, why does the Upper Peninsula not belong to Minnesota? What's up with that? Well, I call the Panhandle of Florida the part of Florida Alabama didn't want. Upper Peninsula of Michigan, God's country. You know, I like nature, and I would not call myself a tree hugger by any stretch of the imagination, but oh, you know, only because the nature that we have here, unless it's the beach, isn't worth looking at. You know, I'll be honest with you. Now, with that said, I did drive across to Everglades in the last month, and there is beauty in it, but it is flat, and it's nothing I'd want to like walk across. You know, whereas probably where you live, it's a lot nicer. You know, upper tip of the thumb. There you go. Memory, man. I'm a map guy. Well, after this, I'm gonna look around and see what's around you because I love doing that stuff like that. Like when we went like 6 years ago, we went snowmobiling in Utah, and I couldn't get a phone signal where we were at. But as soon as we got back, I'm all over Google Maps and I pin things on there where we're at because you know that's how I think. See what was around me. Oh, there's that little house that was covered over in snow. Okay, there's this other little thing. So I love all that shit. So hopefully where we're going, there's a good cell phone signal. If not, I'll just have to check it out afterwards. Belongs to Michigan. Yeah, but why does it belong to Michigan? And I'm just saying because, you know, there's natural barriers where something needs to end. You know, like, you know, it'd be like if, well, it's kind of like Northern Ireland, but I mean that's different. You know, it's just weird to have a dividing line when it's just kind of like a small thing that it's being divided all over. Like the Upper Peninsula, just you know, it's like I bet there's angst between people that live in the Upper Peninsula and the people that live in the rest of Michigan. I bet there is. There's got to be. There's always stuff like that. It's just human nature. I guess if I didn't have anything to do, I'd probably watch that whole show they do, How the States Got Their Shapes thing. It'd probably give me all the answers I needed, but I got time to watch that, you know? So this does take a little bit of time, but it's pretty relaxing, you know. Vacation in Munsing. Oh, I need my glasses for this. In Munising, Michigan, and did Picture Point cruises. Check it out. It's a day cruise. Yeah, I'm sure Michigan's totally different. Pines are cool. You know, we got pines too. Actually, I got pine needles everywhere, but I got different pines than you guys. You guys have Christmas tree looking pines. Mine are just all like, you know, lightning rod type things. Um, yeah. Quite a few pines where we're going. Hopefully. Hopefully, yeah. I don't think they chopped any of them down. We will see. We're going to go to Europe this year, and that all fell through. Probably for the best. We were set up to go on a cruise, and the ship, they told us like 8 months in advance, so it's not like, like, surprise, you don't get to go next week. The vessel that we're going to go on wasn't, they changed their mind about it being in Europe in the time period that we were going. So I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to make it to Europe. It's just too freaking inconvenient. It's all right, we got Google Earth. We can check out things from here. What state am I going to? I guess they want me to talk about it. Not going to a state. What state am I going to? Alberta. That's the plan anyways. So, never been to Canada before. We'll see if we get to go. Everything's booked, but in post-COVID, anything could happen. Going to America's hat. You've seen that T-shirt, Canada, America's hat. Yeah, I got nothing against Canadians. I hope it's not too California-ish. And if so, I expect them to apologize for it. Oh, sorry about that. Come back with a weird accent. Yeah, I'm a person that I would have no interest. My family might feel different. To go somewhere like Colorado or Alberta or Washington State, somewhere that gets snow, that gets a significant amount of wintertime stuff, and then go there in the summertime. Like, I live in perpetual summertime. Like, I don't want to visit for that, you know? I don't see what the point is. I wouldn't want to go to Europe in the summer. Like, why? A place that has less air conditioning than my spoiled American ass and just as hot. Like, no, I don't want to go there. So, you probably get it. I think you're outside for your job quite a bit, like I am. I think you have a similar job than what I do. I'm outside all the time in the elements, and it's just too bloody hot here. And there is a difference. One thing I noticed the difference today, this year, this year it dawned upon me. I don't like being outside sweating for no reason. Okay, it's different if you're at the beach, whatever, because you can get wet or whatever. But one thing I really don't like is I don't like being in my work clothes and being hot. If I can dress around it, if I can wear whatever the hell I want, and I'm sweating, I'm a little bit better with it because I'm a little bit more comfortable with what in the environment. But man, I don't want to go anywhere in my work clothes. Man, I don't have a uniform or anything, but just it's not the most comfortable stuff, you know. I don't like to experience anything that I experienced while I'm being paid, while I'm not being paid. Same weather year round would suck, sorry. Well, you get used to it. You don't get snowed in. Hurricanes, thankfully, aren't really a factor in the part of Florida where I've always lived. Um, Cost of living used to be inexpensive until everybody wants to move here. People can't figure that out. What'd you do? Fail economics? It's home. I can't imagine living somewhere else. It is psychological. We don't have to rake anything. That's a plus. Or shovel anything. Okay, and this little Clampets truck is done also. All right, we're going to switch greens now. Oh, I got to put my glass on to find a lid. The mole factor. How did it end up all the way over there? I guess I'll have to rewind the video and find out the odyssey it went on. Michigan beaches are saltwater free, no sharks. Don't rake leaves. What's a shark? I don't worry about sharks. This is the most country I've lived. I live in a town that has probably 12,000 people in it or whatever. But it's just 15 miles north of where I used to live, so. And it's the same town I work in and have worked in for 30 years, so. It's just a suburb of the other one, so it's not like it's somewhere totally different. But one of the things I like the most about where I live is I turn on this neighborhood and every house has a flagpole. So one of the first things, the first thing I bought was how to buy a flag for my house. It's just like living in the old USA where, nobody was protesting living here, but yet still living here. Okay, this is the olive green. We'll do this one and then we'll do a wash on all of them. First house I've ever lived in that has a septic tank. It's funny because my neighbors have been here 2 years longer than we have. They don't know anything about it either. So I'd look it up. I'd inform them on the septic tank they don't know anything about. Your town is 1,800 people. Okay, but how many minutes drive are you away from a town that has at least 50,000 people? I think that's the defining factor. I could live in a small town, but if you're like 3 hours away from any town that's 50,000 people or bigger, that's just too remote for me. My wife would leave me. I would probably leave myself as well. Yeah, I don't think I need to get this other paint out. We'll just roll forward with it. This is more lime looking, more of a lime, dirty brown. It's not as brown, it's more lime-like. I think they'll probably work fine just to get next to each other. I've used both, so. can't read the first part of your comment. I just see hour. So I'm thinking it's 1 hour. Okay, that's not terrible. So what do you do for internet? Because that's one of the big problems is if you live somewhere remote, you have connection speed issues. Not cell phone signal. I get great cell phone signal everywhere. But like internet. Because right now I'm using the wireless T-Mobile thing. Because we don't have cable options or what do you call that thing? Fiber? We only have fibromyalgia, no fiber. Never had fiber. You get real used to living in a place that has houses far away from each other, or farther away from each other. And we came here and I'm like, man, we should have lived here always. We should have always lived here. An hour and a half where I live, it's farmland and forestry protected by the federal government. Satellite internet. Yeah, I don't think I could do the satellite. I don't think I could do the satellite internet. I wouldn't be able to get the connection speeds. But as long as you're not bored, that's a better place to live. My wife would not be able to live here if we did not have a first tier grocery store. I'm all for supporting small businesses and mom and pops and stuff like that, but I don't want a grocery store that reminds me of or she doesn't want a grocery store that reminds her of like a days past. I have a water well that's 170 feet deep. I could get one here, but no, I'm on the city water. I'm fine not having a well. I know several people, you may have a good one, but I know several people that have one that is, if my water smelled like that, I wouldn't wash. I'd have to use bottled water to wash. It smelled like freaking eggs. I know they probably drilled the thing wrong, but man, that's just a risk I'm just not willing to take. We have a water softener. That's the first time ever having a water softener. And our utilities are about half of what they were in the city. In the suburbs, I should say. It's not like I lived in a city, but I wouldn't want to live in a city. Absolutely not. But suburbia, I'm a suburbia person, and this is like being in the country and not. So it's funny, the commute is significantly shorter than the other one, significantly shorter than distance-wise and time-wise. But man, it's a lot more stressful because you got all these country people that work in the city, and instead of going against them, now I'm going with them, and it's like NASCAR out there. So I'm just surprised by that. And the little town I live with is infested with police. Infested. I put my cruise control going through there. And they're waiting for somebody to just go 48 miles an hour in a 45. There's just too many cops, not enough crime. Between the highway patrol, the local cops, and the county folks, there's always speed traps in there. But I've worked in that town for 30 years. It's not like it's a surprise or something. But I'd say the only gripe right now would be the internet speed. And I don't know, I don't think it's been that much of an issue. Hopefully, it's not an issue for you guys. It's not an issue for me if I'm not doing the show. So here's the two different colors. As you can see, there's not much of a difference. There's not much of a difference overall. So. A basement. What's that? What's a basement? I know as much about basements as I do about state income tax. I don't know shit. And salt on the roads. I don't know anything about that. We'll see if we have some adverse weather conditions that we have to drive under. But I'm old school. I'd rather be the driver than be the passenger. I trust myself. I'm not Billy Badass. There's shit I'm afraid of, or have a reserved opinion of, and that's okay, because you probably won't get killed by that. It's the stuff you don't respect that will get you done in. But we had one tour they wanted us to sign up for, and it involved like walking on an ice lake or something like that. And part of it is walking across an ice bridge. I'm like, I'm not walking across a bridge that doesn't exist in the summertime. I just does not sound good. I'd rather swim with sharks. No cops out by me. I live on a dirt road. No, there is no difference. Yeah, we don't live on a dirt road. That wouldn't have been able to work. I work at a place that's basically a dirt farm, so I don't need any more dirt in my life. They're building a car wash in this town. It's going to open soon. I can't wait until they open. They got one of them subscription things, so it's even on the right side. It's even on the correct side of me when I come home from work. So I'm gonna be the one that's gonna raise the frickin' rates on that thing, because I'm probably gonna go through that every day, because it is just car just gets filthy at work, just swirling masses of stuff, and where I work is paid, but there's parts of it that aren't, and dust and heavy equipment. So you don't have any bumper stickers. You got one that's permanently have somebody writes on "Wash Me" on yours. Really must be hard to find gamers around where you're at if you lived in that remote of a place. But I may have gamers nearby, and if you don't go hang out with them, it doesn't really matter how far away you are from them. So. This is what I need to do daily. Not game, is do this kind of therapy. That's right. Florida homes have no basements. That's right. I don't know where it is that you start kicking in. Georgia, there's I've never lived in a house with a basement, and the only other state I've lived in other than Florida is Alabama. We lived in Alabama for 3 years, northern Alabama, in the late 70s, and that house had no basement either. So I don't know what the hell a basement is, but I'm not a fan of houses with stairs, so basement would be kind of a mixed bag. Although I've seen some people have some kick-ass basements, like a whole game room thing. I mean, it's just pretty cool. Then again, I've never lived in a house that did not have a monolithic slab floor. So in other words, you're walking around and the floor is creaking. That's I've never lived in a house with a creaky floor because there's never been airspace behind the floor, underneath the floor. You remember walking on a glacier in Patagonia, Tony? It was quite an experience. Special crampon like shoes. Yeah, I don't mind doing that part. I just don't want to walk on an ice bridge. And it's funny because even if I wanted to, the other people that I live with, they wouldn't want to. We went to. I'm not particularly scared of bridges, but my daughter doesn't like them. We went to, and just one of ice, one that can disappear. Yeah, not interested. I don't need to be. I don't watch horror movies. I don't need to be terrorized on vacation. And we all have certain things that we don't care for. Some people are scared of sharks. I'm not. I don't want to be bleeding in a tank full of them, but I don't really think about them. I'd be more worried about being somewhere there could be bears and be unarmed, you know. And they're supposed to be hibernating. Well, we went to Colorado. We stayed outside of Breckenridge, on the suburbs of Breckenridge, really in Breckenridge, but it was on the way out. And there was a little hill over houses. Houses are intermixed in the hill and the forest and everything. It was right across this place where we were staying. And there was a cave. And this bear would come. We saw this bear come out and, like, man, I'm glad I'm not sitting on that side. Don't want to run to a bear with or without cocaine. I don't do tabletop wargaming anymore. More just model building. I get it. You're not missing that much, honestly. If you got the right folks, it's cool, but this is a therapeutic part. I guess this is technically model building with a purpose, with an end game purpose, maybe, if it happens. Last one. There's a lot of people that do tabletop gaming and never build anything. I'd rather build stuff and never game with it. How's the feed looking for you guys? The speed okay on it? I haven't heard anybody complain, so I figure it's probably working all right. And if it sucks, there's nothing I can do about it. I don't have the skill set for that. I don't have the skill set to make electronic things better. That's not what I can't I can't improve that situation. You're more camping and hiking in northern forest or weightlifting. You don't want to camp in Florida. I was scarred from camping with doing Boy Scout stuff in the early 80s. No air conditioning, freaking mosquitoes. There's nothing. You don't want to camp in Florida. This place is ugly for camping. You probably have some beautiful stuff up there, but I could do camping, but I need a place to get a good shower. So I gotta be civilized, you know. Winter times when I do more model building. I'm sure you got something you could be shoveling right now. Had to get snow boots. Never had snow boots, and I don't think that's money wasted because we're gonna go again. The three of us really like the snow. We don't want to live there, but you know it's the same thing. You know you're probably exposed to it all the time. A lot of people that are exposed to stuff they don't really appreciate things like I'm like why would somebody want to go to a swamp, like you know and Florida's not that swampy. Certain parts are, but there's like, you know, you get eaten alive by, mosquitoes and no-see-ums and things like that. Forget alligators and snakes. Snakes are cool. I don't want to be swimming in a vat of them, but, they don't gross me out or anything. But frickin', I went to a job site many years ago in Cedar Key, and that's on what we like to refer to as the Redneck Riviera. That's the coastline south of Tallahassee, between there and, say, Crystal River. So almost all the way to St. Petersburg. There ain't nothing out there except swamp and nothing out there. We would check that at a job site, and I got out of the car, and it almost would have been relieving to light yourself on fire with diesel fuel just to keep the no-see-ums off of you. They literally would drive you crazy. You hear the stories of like, people that are like in wartime and they've got these masks that are all with the netting and stuff like that. Yeah, you need that. They just drive you. They just absolutely drive you crazy. Redneck Riviera. Yeah, I wouldn't want to live. I wouldn't mind living in the country. I couldn't live in the Redneck Riviera. It's just nothing to look at either. It's just ugly. No beaches there. Everything's closed on Sunday. Might as well work on Sunday if everything's closed. Right now, it's 38 degrees. By 2 p.m., it's going to be 47. That's great weather, man. I like that shit. You guys have clear skies or is it overcast? Hey, this insulated bastard ain't scared of cold weather. The dryness, on the other hand. That's all right. We've been out west a couple times. We know the drill. We're gonna have to drink water even though you're not even thirsty, or avoid having a huge headache. And the next step I'm not really fond of, the wash, because it's kind of messy. And honestly, I'm not used to making a mess when I paint. Just kind of no other way around it. And we'll be using the Army Painter Strong Tone for that. Been pretty happy with that as a replacement for the extremely overpriced Agrax Earthshade. And it works better. The Agrax Earthshade's kind of gummy. All right, that can go there. Let's move this we're not going to mess with the JSs right now. Let's do the trucks. I'm moving this the hell out of here. We got live paint. Let's get that where we can't accidentally transfer that to something we have no intention to. No alligators. Alligators aren't a problem. They're in places I don't want to go. No snakes. Snakes are cool. Clear skies all day. That's good. How long have we been on here? An hour and a half? 2 hours. Okay. Strong tone should be here. There it is. Bam. All right, we're going to give these guys a quick wash, and then we will break to let this dry and come back at some later time. It's going to take about, how long does it take? 3 or 4 hours, just to be safe. It could be less time than that, but there's no point in pushing it. What did I do last time? I think I just actually put little dots of this stuff on and moved it around. We'll see how it behaves, because sometimes if this paint hasn't set well, it doesn't do well with a strong tone on top of it. So we'll put some here on here and see how it works. Looks all right. And then we'll see if I need to go out and get some more of this stuff. Go out in the big city and get some. Duty calls. Okay. That's usually my first stop in the mornings. Of course, we'll do the windscreens later. Marcus, I don't know if you're still on here. Have you built those Studebaker trucks that are made by Pegasus for the Soviets? They seem like a good candidate to do that. One thing that's annoying is if you're building trucks and you're building some kind of manufacturer that the instructions are just uber complicated about all the workings underneath the chassis, like the suspension and shit like that. Those SU trucks are crazy. They want you to put all those springs and and it's not time wise how much time it takes, but man, they really don't fit well together. They don't fit well together at all. Now let's try another one. And we'll paint the tires just before we do the weathering part. second one. I'll move them over here where there's a little bit more room. Actually, I heard somebody move about. I'll be right back in a moment. David Euf. Good morning. Good morning, sir. I assumed your gender. We do that around here. Just painting some Soviet trucks. I already painted them. I already put the base color down. I'm just putting some strong tone in here. We'll let this dry, and then we'll go back and do the rest of our dry brushing extravaganza. Either later on today or more than likely tomorrow morning. Now, these are the 1/72nd scale Soviet trucks by Plastic Soldier Company. Comes 6 to a box. It's pretty expensive, but you do get 6 of them, and you don't have to fool with all the stupid springs and stuff like that they want you to put on these trucks. I actually don't mind fiddly little models. The problem is fiddly little models sometimes aren't very durable, and I'd hate to have to do repairs on them, even though I don't really do roughhousing with them, but stuff happens. This doesn't have to be perfect. There's still lots more painting that's going to happen on top of these. If anything, you can grab them by the tires, because the tires are going to get painted over this. I don't worry about putting strong tone on top of the tire color, because you wouldn't see it anyways, since the tire color is darker than the strong tone. It even might make a difference, but it's just not worth fooling with. And if these even look remotely as good as the Opal Blitzes, I'll be extremely happy, because I was really happy the way those turned out. Here's the third one. I'd still be doing this had I airbrushed these. I'm fine just using the airbrush just for the base color, the priming and the sealing. Everything else, for the most part, I can do by hand. Some of the camouflage works a little bit better with the airbrushing. But I'm not anywhere close to being a master with it, nor do I have any intention of ever being a master with the airbrushing. I'm just not going to use it enough to be good with it, that level. It always strikes me one of the guys that's a really good model builder. I forget which one it is, whether it's Night Shift or the other guy that I get mixed up with Night Shift. Both of them like from Eastern Europe. And one of them had never painted figures before. He was doing 1/35 scale models. And he was all concerned. I don't know if the figures will turn out okay. Put me in, coach. I can do figures. At the time, I don't think I was looking for ideas for people doing vehicles and stuff like that. Just kind of get my method down and be happy with it. I wouldn't want to start doing a dozen of them, and then I didn't like how they turned out, and I came up with another method and liked that one a lot better. So I didn't want to have a mishmash type of equipment. I want them to kind of look like they'll have the same person painted all of them. And after watching many people, I kind of modified one person's method, and I've been really happy with it ever since. So, and I can consistently make it so that it looks similar. You don't end up having one vehicle looks brand new, one of them looks old, and but this being all sloppy is actually helpful because I'm going to end up going over this anyways. I'm going to dry brush over all this stuff, and it'll help it all come back down to come together. Well, I haven't heard anybody complain about the feed speed, so I guess the speed's working okay. That's good because I do have a download going at the same time. Again, however, this time I actually have the television off. And I think that makes a difference because last time I did it, it was running really slow, but I was afraid of losing the download in the middle of the process. So I left the TV on, and I think not having the TV on helps. And after we're done with this little truck here, we are going to sign off for a while this dries. Of course, it's going to look all shiny and stuff, but all that will disappear in moments. Yeah, there's lots of different ways to do the windows. There's one method that I liked. I just have to find it. I saved it a while ago. And if I can reproduce that, which I'm pretty confident in my abilities with a brush. If it's brush related, I can do it. Airbrush, I'm just a noob. But regular brush, yeah, I can do it. Even though it looks like I'm just slopping shit on right now. And I kind of am, but that's because this isn't important. You know what I hate about this? I hate that I'm getting goop all over my fingers, but it all comes off. All with the power of hand sanitizer. I'm certain it'll turn out well. These had solid windows, and there was actually some guy who was like, hey, you can drill them out. And I'm like, okay, I don't need create more work for myself and build the interior. I'm like, okay, that's too much, I'm just going to turn this thing over, get as much of this stuff off. And this stuff, along with the pure polyurethane, is a little bit more difficult to come off than regular paint, but still, just comes off like a miracle. And I found that by accident. Maybe somebody already knew about it, but a lot of things we see somebody else do and we kind of perfect them, whether we realize it or not, or make them to your own method. This is something that I found on my own. Somebody may have already come up with it, and they probably did with as many people doing it, but I didn't see their video on doing this, so. It's kind of like discovering the New World. The New World was already there, and there was people living there, but nobody outside in Europe knew about it. It's kind of the same thing. I discovered this. Like, people already knew how to use hand sanitizer for all this stuff. So yeah, well, I didn't watch their video, damn it. So, as far as I'm concerned, it's new. Never been done before. Not sure if you're happy with the PSC's RSO. The problem with the RSO is it's such an ugly vehicle that even if you do a good job on it, it doesn't look right because the vehicle's just ugly. And there's nothing you can do about it, All right, folks, so this is where we're at. We're going to stop, let these set, and we'll probably pick this up tomorrow morning and power through it. The process will be dry brush the same color again on top of it. Add a little bit of dark sand, lighten up, dry brush over that, and then pick out some details. Then do the tires, and weather, and then after all that's done, windshields. And no, I'm not going to do little windshields that have the little. Oh, you're not happy with the windows? Okay. Okay, cool. I'm not doing the little spots where the windshield wiper scratch. That's a bridge too far. So, at least I don't think I'm doing that. Let's put it that way. Okay, folks, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you